What is going on, y'all? Happy Sunday. Welcome into GC Live Sunday Reset with your host, the one, the only, Jack Veltri, yours truly. Man, what a freaking night last night. Am I right? What a game. South Carolina, if you're living under a rock, South Carolina picks up a crazy, wild 34-30 win over the Missouri Tigers to finally get over that hump and beat Missouri for the first time since 2018 and claim the Mayor's Cup, bring it back to Columbia, South Carolina. What a night. What a game. We've got a lot to talk about. Going to be joined by special guest JP Hovey just in a little bit here whenever he hops on stream. But appreciate you guys all tuning in this morning. Craig says, morning, Jack. What a freaking game. You're dang right, man. What a game. Absolutely nuts. Frederick says, good morning. Good morning to you, Frederick. Thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, and I'm running on few hours of sleep, was up till about 3 in the morning last night working. But you know what? Who cares? We're here, ready to rock and roll and ready to have some fun with you guys for about the next hour or so talking about this game. And again, I guess JP Hovey will be joining me in just a little bit here. It is absolutely nuts. So definitely looking forward to this stream. It's been a lot of fun recently, talking about how much fun this team is with the way they're winning and stuff. And last night, I think it probably gave a lot of people heart attacks, but hey, it was a great game for sure. And I'm sure this guy got a big heart attack last night. Special guest from Bussin With The Boys with Barstool Sports, JP Hovey. JP, how we doing, boss?
Let's go. What's up, Jack? I'm doing amazing. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Have you recovered from last night yet, man?
Man, so if I look a little tired, we were in New York last night for the UFC fights as well. So imagine I live in Nashville right now. We're friends with Michael Chandler, who fought last night. So to start my day, we have the Gamecocks going against Missouri. Heart rate is going crazy in that fourth quarter. And, there's a piece of all of us Gamecock fans that I'm sure as it's happening is like, man, there's no way we're about to have another fourth quarter South Carolina, like where we just don't, something happens where we don't figure it out. So then we do it, sigh of relief, and then we go to the fights, and Mike is in like an epic fight. So I might need to go to the doctor tomorrow based off everything that's happening.
Dude, it was insane last night. Like the crowd was nuts last night.
Man.
I mean, look, this whole season, right, has been just one wave of giant emotions, right? They lose to LSU and Alabama, but they also have these crazy wins where they beat Kentucky, they beat A&M, they beat Vanderbilt pretty handily last week. And then last night, what's your overall reaction to the way they were able to get it done? Like, in past, I feel like South Carolina has kind of been the letdown in these types of matchups where they haven't been able to get it done. I mean, it was 10 years ago against Missouri where they blew a 2-touchdown lead and ended up losing that game by 1 point. But last night, even when it felt like that might have been the case, they persevered.
It seems like the last time I feel like we've won one of those games was when Connor Shaw and their team beat Missouri.
Yeah.
With the 2-point conversion. And it was like, man, it's such a turning point moment, I think, for a program where it looked like versus LSU, kind of like that's what was going to happen. It gets close again. You find a way to get the gritty win. And then, unfortunately, we all know what happened with that game. We won't say it was the refs, but it was the refs.
It was.
But yeah, so to see this one, I honestly don't know if I have ever watched a South Carolina football game-winning drive with 1:10 left that ends in a touchdown. We've had field goals in the past, but for them to drive down the field and then Rocket Sanders, grown man, four other grown men get off me. I'm not stopping until I'm in there for 6. Like, it just felt so validating. It felt like a turning point for the program, for Beamer. And then, you see him in the press conference after when I forget who asked the question, but like it was the first time in program history that there's been however many wins versus the top team. He was like,
3 in a row.
He's like, say that one more time. I'm like, that's how I feel like South Carolina Gamecock fans felt like, yes, please say it one more time.
Oh my gosh, dude, it
Man.
was crazy. I feel like if we're gonna start this conversation anywhere, and I appreciate you joining me, and I appreciate everyone tuning in to this episode. I think we got to start with Sellers, right? Like
Have
Lenorris,
to.
the progress this dude's made
God,
since the Old Dominion game, and I just remember, I keep harping on it. Like people after the Alabama game, I remember leaving Tuscaloosa, and I'm just on my phone, just like going on Twitter, going on Gamecock Central, and I see all these people talking about, oh, this guy's not the answer. He stinks. He's not good. Man, it's so quiet now where I don't see any of these commenters, these posters out there talking about how bad of a quarterback he is. Because man, I'm gonna be honest, South Carolina's not in that game last night without him. The heroic plays he made. That third down potential sack where I know you posted it on your Twitter last night. I mean, I think
Yeah.
everyone was raving about it. The way he's able to break out of these insane sacks, like brought to the ground. If he gets brought to the ground, that third down sack, it's fourth down, they're punting. Who knows what happens from there?
Right.
Just the way he's able to stay up and make the throw to Brady Hunt for the first down, keeping the drive alive. I felt like that was a game-changing play because, I mean, look, South Carolina doesn't go and take the lead right after that. What did you make of his performance last night? Again, 353 yards, 5 tutties. He did have the one pick, but, like, who cares, man? He had such a great night.
Right. And I know I felt the same way after the Alabama game when I was seeing some of Gamecock Twitter saying these things, because when I watched that game, I'm thinking, yo, this kid has every single thing that we need. And he just needs to put it together this much more.
Yeah.
But he was extending plays at Alabama. Then I'm like, guys, we haven't had somebody that can extend plays like this and give us a shot since Connor Shaw when it comes to moving around. And then sure enough, ever since that Alabama game, nobody can stop him. And my favorite part about him too is just you can tell so clearly that the guys love him.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Rocket scores that touchdown, Sellers is jumping like he's hurdling dudes earlier in the game. And he's so fired up for everyone. Everyone is on his side. He goes to the sidelines. Everyone's dapping him up. And I don't know if I've ever even seen a quarterback get this much better in a 5-game stretch as Lenorris Sellers. And the entire country feels that way about him. And they keep throwing out that Cam Newton-esque.
Oh, man.
So, I mean, it's only going to get better based off what we've seen so far, because you watch the games and he plays incredible, and there still are those little like freshman moments a little bit, protecting the ball, maybe a silly pick, but like 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Give me that all day, every day.
Like the man is just making significant progress game after game. Week 1, it's like, all right, it's his first start. The pressure of the entire state is on him to be successful. He's taking over Spencer Rattler, and South Carolina's coming off a bad year. Like, so much pressure on him.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he felt like pressure was getting to him in the pocket, he took off and ran. He ran like 22 times in that game. You see the next game after that where he makes some smart throws, and it's like, okay, there's glimpses of it, like the Mazio Bennett touchdown against Kentucky. Then Alabama, he has those fumbles, and it's like, man, like regress, like step back maybe, right? And then just ever since then, like you said, man, he's been on fire. And I think last night was probably his best game. It definitely was from a statistic standpoint. Like 5 touchdowns and 350 yards, that's hard to argue with. But I think there's just something to be said about his downfield vision, the way he's able to read a play and know when either it's time to take off, time to make a throw, or I know he had the pick last night and it wasn't a great play, great throw. And even the fourth down on 4th and 4 where they turned the ball over.
Yeah.
You'd like it to be better, but overall, man, I thought he's looking like a completely different quarterback out there. And it's only year 1 of him as a starter.
That's what I'm saying. You saw the stats running last night of Missouri being like 8-0 or 6-0 in these games that are like 7 or less points going into the fourth quarter. And it's like, we really just watched a freshman quarterback get the ball back with 1 minute and 10 seconds and go down on a Missouri defense that was getting pressure on him all night and lead us to a game-winning drive. As a freshman, this is like ESPN headline, I think, for any other school probably. It is so insane.
it's wild, dude. And you know what? We're gonna give Sellers pretty much all the credit. Let's be real.
Yeah.
South Carolina doesn't win that game last night without him. Rocket Sanders also deserves a heck of a lot of credit for that. I mean,
Oh,
like
yeah.
you said, dude, he carried like 4 guys to the end zone. And look, the tackling for both teams, I think, was abysmal last night. But you know
Yeah.
what? You're not bringing down like what 230 plus Rocket Sanders. That dude is
No.
unbelievable. But I will say, South Carolina, you know, for how much I say South Carolina doesn't win that game without Sellers or Rocket or whoever, they really don't win this game without some of the guys that randomly just came out of nowhere. Dale Von Campbell makes 2 of the biggest catches in the game for a total of 86 yards to keep. It was on those 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. I mean, him, Brady Hunt making the big catch, Michael Smith scoring the penultimate go ahead touchdown. I mean, who had that on their bingo card?
I'm telling you.
And dude, and then Jalen Kilgore. We'll talk about the defense in a bit, but him getting his redemption after Luther Burden made that crazy touchdown catch and he missed the tackle and all that. I mean, talk about redemption right there. I mean, how crazy is it that so many different guys were you expecting like any of these random guys that just brought up, besides Kilgore, obviously he's not a random guy, but these other guys randomly just came out of nowhere. Nick Harbor had an insane game last night. You can go on and on with how many guys made an impact. Just what stood out most to you about the way this team was able to get the job done with so many different heroes?
Yeah, I think what stood out most to me that outside of course, our Sellers and Sanders, but I mean, I think it is Nick Harbor because he made these big catches down the field, and even on the deep balls, like I feel like we used to never take shots, and it's so important to take shots because it opens everything up. And now when you got a guy that is beating defenders and the shots are working, it changes everything. Like everything. Literally everything. It changes how the O-line can play, it changes how the running backs can play, it changes every other receiver. And then I love that you shouted out Dalvin Campbell too, because when going into the season, you see him on the you just see him on paper and you're like, okay, this dude has all the attributes we need for maybe who we were hoping Nick Harbor could be. And fans also, because they kind of like to get on Nick Harbor a little bit. Like, man, he just started playing wide receiver.
And the video game did him no good, dude. Like, the video game, I hate to say, because, like, last night was like, all right, the video game kind of was right about him. But, like, dude, it took, like, again, stuff like this is not going to happen overnight. People forget he's a 5-star athlete, not a 5-star wide receiver. This dude was playing defense in high school. So it obviously took time. But, I mean, look, last night and the Vanderbilt game, the Alabama game, his last few games have been so much better than anything we've seen from Nick. I feel like he's really starting to come along. He created separation last night. I don't know what Missouri's defense was doing half the time, leaving those guys open. But, man, I mean, he had a great night last night.
Yeah, awesome night. And, again, too, Josh Simon.
Oh, I mean, how can you not talk? Dude.
When he broke that one tackle to get the first down and then some, it was those plays are so huge, and it's what we were lacking. Like, we had our Legettes, we had Debo, but we didn't have – we used to have all the tight ends, right? We had Jared Cook, Wesley Saunders, Hayden Hurst, everyone, and then it's kind of seemed like we lost him for a second. And now – with Josh Simon, the tight ends are back. TEU is back up and running.
Man.
So, yeah, I mean, it's so cool to see people step up. I was really happy to see Mazio Bennett back because that injury was pretty scary when it first happened. Yeah. And he made a big play on it was like that little swing pass or shovel pass and got upfield for the first down. We were getting all the extra yards that good teams get on these basic plays. Like, instead of it going 4, it was going 8. So now you don't have 2nd and 6, you have 2nd and 2.
Yeah.
And it changes how you can call a game, which another guy that deserves credit, Dowell. He was taking heat this year from a lot of fans, but I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen better play calling at the goal line than what we saw last night.
It's been so much better. And people love to hate on Dowell for whatever reason. Like when things aren't going right, he's to blame. And I get it. But man, his play calling, I feel like for the last month or so, has been through the roof, very solid. Like ever since you can even go back to the LSU game with how good this offense was looking, even without Sellers in there. Like ever since then, man, the Alabama game was where I really noticed, okay, this offense is like, they're not going away. They're
Right.
legit. But man, it's crazy. And also shout out Jared Brown because he had
Shout out Jared Brown.
dude, that man again. And I think we need to talk about this, man. The blocking last night. I think look, even though there were some times where I thought the blocking wasn't great, like I thought like Case and Henry and Tree were getting beat a little bit off the edge at times. I thought the perimeter blocking was pretty good last night. And again, someone brought it up in the comments, like I think there were like 30 something, 37 dropbacks and only 7 pressures last night. And Missouri's defensive line, as you said, was getting into the backfield. But I think this offensive line, again, for the third straight week, and I know they gave up a sack. I thought they played very well. What did you make of the way the blocking looked last night?
I think it's the left side, Josiah Thompson. I don't hear his name come up that often. And to have a left tackle like him, who's a freshman, is insane. And especially in these big games with a quarterback like Sellers. They were a question mark going into the season because they were a question mark last season. And I would like to think our offensive line moved from a question mark to a period where we have a good one. Like they are here, they're getting better, and we do have a lot of young guys like on our O-line depth chart.
Very true.
So I think they're in a great spot for the future as well. And I would love to see. I wish I was on the inside to see where Sean Elliott's hands are in the offense.
I know. I think he's definitely got his hands in all of this. Like obviously run game coordinator, tight ends coach. He's doing a great job with these tight ends, by the way. And
Amazing job.
Yeah, I feel like he's definitely got his hands in there with the offensive line. I mean, look, he's been an offensive line coach here before, so who's to say it doesn't just leave him, right?
Right.
Let's flip over to the defense because people want us to talk about last night. All right, look, 30 points given up, and you lose the rushing battle. You give up about 150 rushing yards to Missouri. If you had told me that pregame, I would have been like, oh, South Carolina's not winning this game. Like, they lose 2 of the most important battles in this game. But, man, like, even without their fastball last night, I think the defense had such good off-speed pitches to where it's like they could make up for it. Like, they got some timely sacks. The DJ Sanders sack on, I think it was right after Lenorris's interception in the first half.
Yeah.
Third down, TJ just flies in there past the offensive line, gets the sack to force the missed field goal right after. And then towards the end of the game, Kyle Kennard, I mean, look, real quick, do we think he's going to get the single season sack record at South Carolina? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm the eternal optimist. So whenever people would phone up Clowney's rookie sack record, his overall sack record, I'm like, they're doing it. Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard are both doing it all. So I'm all in on that one.
Yeah, agreed. But he gets the sack right before Jalen Kilgore gets the game-sealing interception last night to close it out. We'll talk about how they kind of struggled against the outside zone and stuff, and how Missouri's receivers kind of. I mean, Missouri outplayed them in the second half, I thought, for the most part. But South Carolina is able to get the job done. Defense last night, what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways? What do you got to say on them?
Yeah, I think if not our greatest defensive performance, their running back was carving us in that second half. Like I see in here, the zone run absolutely killed us last night. He would make those cutbacks, and then it was just like 15-yard chunk plays, which, obviously credit to Missouri. Their O-line is solid. That right tackle is a menace out there. He was giving Dylan a hard time.
Yeah.
Now, if you're another offensive lineman in the SEC, you probably want to go ahead and get upset with Missouri's right tackle for what he created, what he will be creating with Dylan Stewart, because Dylan Stewart is like, hang on, I can't be going out like this. And he's about to reach that next level, and it's all Missouri offensive line's fault. But like you were saying, making the big plays in the timely moments, I think Kyle Kennard getting the sack. Did he get the sack against Texas A&M as well? Like there was a bigger one. It was like a big moment in the game. He was kind of quiet. Or it could have been Stewart though.
I think it was like fourth quarter, like when they didn't have any sacks. They got like 2 in a row.
Right.
I don't think it was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it might have been. I could be wrong on that.
Well, yeah, it's your best position group making plays at the biggest moments, regardless of what has happened the whole game, and they're struggling to get back there. They stepped up when it mattered most, and that is what you see from all of the best teams. Like it doesn't matter how the game's going, your best players are going to step up, and that's exactly what they did. I was getting a little nervous last night because we had some extracurriculars going on after some of these plays. Even Wari was doing some things, and I'm like, man, I honestly can't believe the ref didn't throw this. But I mean, you like to see the attitude that the defense has. It's we were talking about Sean Elliott earlier. It feels like Sean Elliott's fingerprint is on the entire team.
It does, man.
Exactly what
the energy. The energy just feels so much different with this team. I just remember covering this team last year, and I'm like, my first year on the beat, and I'm thinking like, man, this team just they got no life in them, no heart, and it stinks because they went 5-7 last year, and they had talent, but they couldn't get it done. But this year, man, it just feels like a complete 180. When it starts with the belief they have and all that stuff, like it's just, and the defense, Clayton White. I mean, look, I think he's probably going to end up taking. Someone's going to want to get him as their next head coach, and he deserves it. But look, man, he's done a great job in his 4 years here at South Carolina, and a lot is to be said about him. With the defense last night, I think the secondary, Judge Collier had some big pass breakups last night, but then he gets taken to the hospital during right after he gets hurt in the first half. But what did you make of the secondary play last night? Obviously, there were some plays where I keep wanting to think LSU, but Missouri just burned and beat some DBs on some plays. I mean, does that concern you at all moving forward? Or
yeah, not really, just because their body of work has been so good all year.
Yeah,
that this one game is bound to happen, and we went for so many fourth downs last night.
Oh, that was insane.
The defense was for sure tired with some of these because the drives were not long. We were getting just to midfield or right around it and then going for fourth, and then defense is right back on with a little bit of a shorter field to defend. So this was the first time I've seen the defense look a little bit gassed and like they didn't have their legs on them, because it truly looked like Missouri's offense wanted it more than our defense wanted it in that second half. But when it comes down to the crunch time and there's 5 minutes left in the game, like they found that extra gear, and that extra gear is what's going to get you into the college football playoff in the going towards in the future. Maybe this year if we go and storm the committee. But I don't think we need to be concerned, just because I think they hold themselves to such a high standard.
Yeah, that's true.
The guys are having fun out there still. Like even when it's getting bad, you don't see our defense getting frustrated with each other.
Yeah.
And that's the most frustrating thing as a fan, when you see your guys going at it, a lot of palms up activity. We don't have that. So they believe they can make the plays no matter what has happened earlier in the game, and it's huge.
Yeah, most definitely. And we'll get into a little bit of the future talk with bowl playoff. I don't know how much of a believer we've gotten here, but we'll see. Shane Beamer last night. Look, there were a lot of questionable decisions, I think, with some of the fourth down calls. Like you went 2 of 5 on fourth down last night, and 2 of them came on 4th and 1 where you didn't get it. Like Rocket got stuffed at the line. He bounces outside, tries to pick up the first. He comes up short. And then on the QB sneak, which after the game, Shane said he felt really good about, and they had been practicing, they just didn't get it. And then the fourth down throw went incomplete. But I think besides that, how did you feel about the aggressiveness last night with those things where he's like, I'm not playing for overtime this game, playing to win, all that. And then he's also calling his timeouts with like 2 minutes left to go in the first half. And he's trusting his offense to go out there. And I thought at the time it was the kill shot. to go up 21-6, but
Right.
obviously it wasn't. But like, I mean, that's a game changer right there. The fact that South Carolina was able to get 21 points in the first half.
Exactly. And you're so right. Calling those timeouts before halftime. I feel like we just keep talking about all these things that other great teams do. It's like that's what they do, and that's where they're able to capitalize.
Yeah,
And this was the first time. Like usually, it seems like bad things happen to us right before halftime.
that is so true. So
And
true.
so I was, they call it timeouts, and I'm thinking, oh man, like I love this, but based off what's happened this year, please God, don't let anybody get hurt. It's like that. That's my number one concern in those. But to put the foot on the throat, and it seems like you're saying, the next step is you go get that score before half, and then when you get that ball back, you score on that drive somehow coming out of halftime, because that's where it's like in soccer. Our coaches would always tell us the most important times of the game are the first 5 minutes, and then the last 5 minutes right before halftime, the first 5 minutes after halftime, and the last 5 minutes of the game. Like you dominate those periods, you're going to be in pretty good shape. And I think it's kind of the same in football. Obviously, you need to play 4 quarters, but going into and out of breaks, it's so important to set the tone.
Yeah, definitely. Got a few more here before I let you get out of here. But going back to that fourth quarter, I know we talked about it at the beginning, but I'll harp on it a little bit again here. I mean, just what was it like watching that? The wave of emotions from, a true Gamecock fan right here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably speak to as good as anyone. Just what is it like going through that roller coaster of what the fourth quarter was, man? Because, like, I don't think I've seen anything like it, to where South Carolina, because in these games where it gets crazy, like LSU, Bama, South Carolina ends up losing those games, like most times than not. But they finally get the big one. So, like, what's it like watching that, and then to see them finally get over the hump and come out on top?
Yeah. As a fan, it was classic South Carolina. Like South Carolina football is the reason I am the way I am. And I feel like South Carolina football makes you go one of 2 ways with your life. And this is, most fans I know, they're either very pessimistic because of all these things that's happened, or they're optimistic because if you feel like me, it's like, man, but we're one play away. Like we're so close. This is the year we do it. So, and I'm bad because, man, we could be down 21 points with like 5 minutes left, and part of me is like, man, this is like people come back from this. I've seen it happen before, and so we could do it. Like, why not us? But with the way that this season has gone, with the close ranked games, it was so much. You see a play happen, because I was having to watch on my phone, and head down, like this cannot be happening again. Then you see Sellers escape the pocket. You're like, I'm telling Taylor, because and I love the Gamecock fans that have been getting Taylor Lewan back into our universe. I feel like recently we've really picked it up and tagging him in the Clowney hit, which does not go unappreciated. But he's like, it's so funny because Taylor's watching the game with me, and something good is happening to us. Like maybe we pick up a first down, and he's like, oh, let's go. Like, that's huge. I'm like, please, not right now. Like, we have so much more to go.
Literally.
Even at the end of the game, when Missouri got the ball with 15 seconds left, like we scored a touchdown, he's like, bro, huge win. I was like,
bro,
no.
That is not how it works for being a South Carolina fan. People know all too well. They will break your heart more times than not.
I said 15 seconds is a lot of ball left, Taylor. Like,
yes,
we have got to lock in.
Literally. One bad play on defense makes the difference, especially with these receivers. And look, give Missouri a lot of credit. The Vegas was, someone just mentioned it, Vegas was way off the mark last night. I mean,
crazy.
13.5. Even last week, I know South Carolina's been playing so well lately before last night. But, man, a 2-touchdown favorite against another ranked team.
Who's in the argument for the conference championship. Like, they were still a 2-loss SEC team that like could have gotten into the championship.
Like, I know Missouri got boat raced by A&M and Bama, but, man, it's like the disrespect for Missouri was crazy last night, and no one gave them a chance, like myself included. Like, I picked South Carolina to win this game by 24. But, man, like Missouri, I mean, they came to play last night in that second half, and give credit to them. But, look, South Carolina got the win. It's all that matters. 7-3 on the year. You mentioned playoff earlier. I'm glad you did because that's a conversation that I think needs to be had. I know they have 3 losses. I know the odds are stacked against them. Heck, I think they have an 11.7% chance to make the playoff right now or something like that. 11.5, according to ESPN's FPI. It's not a ton. But you know what, man? If they go out here, they beat the piss out of Wofford next week and then go to Death Valley, that's going to be a top 20 matchup more likely than not.
Yep.
I mean, what do you think?
I wouldn't want to be the committee. No, man. I think, it's going to be really tough for us to get in, but the nation knows. And you see after our games, like all of these guys on ESPN, SEC Network, all of the big programs, they all say, and in their power rankings, because they'll do those week by week power rankings, like South Carolina is a top 5 football team.
Yeah.
And nobody is disagreeing because we're built exactly how a championship team is built. Like you're built from kind of the inside out on your defense with a stout D line. And then you're built from a stud quarterback, which is if you have a good quarterback in college football, you have a chance. So we're going to make a case. I said this, I think this past week, I was like, I promise you on December 1st or 2nd, whenever those rankings come out, South Carolina is going to be probably at 13 or 14. And my very first tweet will be expand the playoff.
Yes.
Do you want your best teams in? Expand the playoff because all these 13 teams in front of us, they know we're better than them, and none of them want to play us.
And you know what really kills South Carolina in this case? Obviously, the 3 losses, but the conference champions being in the playoff, I get it. It makes the conference championship games more enticing, like more to play for. But, man, it's like a BYU potentially gets in, and BYU lost to Kansas last night. And there were a lot –
huge for us.
Yes, here's the list of losses last night, or teams that beat ranked teams last night. That really does help South Carolina. Florida beat LSU. Kansas beat BYU. Stanford beats Louisville. Arizona State beats Kansas State. And New Mexico beats Washington State. So, hypothetically speaking, South Carolina should be somewhere around that 17-18 range in the CFP rankings with 2 weeks to go in the regular season, and then obviously conference championship games. So, I mean, look, a lot more has got to happen. I think you needed Georgia to potentially lose last night to Tennessee, but Georgia does Georgia things, and you don't bet against Georgia after a loss. They won last night. But, look, a lot more has got to happen. I mean, what do you need to see? Is there anything else you need to see from this team to like, make you feel like, okay, like this would help them get in, or is there anything they can even do just besides win?
Style points on Clemson.
Yeah.
You have got to bury. This is what needs to happen. We need to go into Death Valley. And because everybody knows the direction Clemson is headed. And I was saying this when we were getting ready to play at Ole Miss, but Clemson is trending down, and Clemson fans have slowly started to dig Dabo Swinney's grave.
Yeah.
We need to go in there and help them, and we have got to. The coffin is open, and if we have a big game, we are going to we'll pick our 6 guys we want to carry that coffin. We'll get Sellers, Sanders, Stewart, Rocket. Give me Josh Simon and give me Debo Williams carrying the Clemson casket and then dropping it in, and then that's the last we ever heard as Clemson as a top program. After what we do to them at the end of November, that's what we need to happen. We need to have a coffin type game on Clemson, and I think we could do it. We like our strengths match up very well against their weaknesses.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, there's nothing better than whooping Clemson.
Oh, totally. Now, here's the thing, though. Like, as much as everyone here wants Clemson to lose to South Carolina and stuff, aren't they still – they're still in the ACC hunt, right? Like, hypothetically, we talk about the coffin being buried and stuff. Let's say Clemson, wins against Citadel, Miami drops a game or something, or someone in the ACC above them drops a game to get back into the ACC title, hopes talk.
Mhm.
And then South Carolina beats Clemson, and then Clemson goes on to win the ACC championship, gets into the playoff. And then let's also say Texas A&M runs the table, gets into the playoff,
Yeah.
the conference championship. Well, then we're talking about South Carolina having 2 ranked wins over conference champions in the college football playoff. I mean, does that not help drastically improve the odds of getting in? Obviously, you need more teams to lose. Like, I think it starts with Indiana getting their butt whooped by Ohio State, which I think they will next week in Columbus. And then you obviously need some other teams to lose here. But I mean, how much? I mean, what is your ideal path to the playoff? What craziness do you feel like needs to happen? I mean,
I mean, what you're saying right there about Clemson, that they are still in the ACC hunt, and they're like there is still a chance.
Like, it's crazy to think about that with how weird the season's been for them.
I think I actually lost my appetite thinking that, like, oh my gosh, he's right. Like Clemson and Texas A&M could go, and I might not sleep until I find out who like was responsible for putting it all together. The craziness we would need is probably extends way past all the things I could rattle off the top of my head. And it sucks because I don't like Ohio State, and I would love Indiana to whoop them. And I love Cignetti. Like he's
doing a heck of a job, man.
Yeah, he's the man. But yeah, I mean honestly, there's so much out there. So I'm really not sure like what all we need to happen, but
too much.
Too much. But there is a chance, and I don't know if we're getting to this, but like finishing this year strong with all of these recruits in the portal, it's massive. And if you are a recruit or a portal guy, I don't know how South Carolina is not like top 2 on your place, because we're right in the NIL era. I believe coaches are starting to separate themselves from who's legit and who's not.
Yeah.
And Shane Beamer is separating himself. Like, we're bringing guys in that are not high profile, high NIL guys, but we're coaching them up, and they are making plays. And there's so much talent out there at a North Carolina Central or North Carolina A&T.
Yeah, where Shelly Simpkins came from.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like there's a ton of those guys out there.
Diamonds in the rough.
And we've always done a good job of finding those people. And now it's just getting better because we're performing on these big stages against ranked opponents. I can't wait to see what they do in the portal this year. Like, I feel so good regardless of like if people leave, if people come. Our coaching staff is going to find the right guys, the right pieces, and they're going to develop them into exactly what we're seeing this year.
Most definitely. And here's the good thing, man. Even if, look, not making the playoff in the 12-team format and being so close with how good this team has been, it would stink, right? Obviously. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I'm glad you brought up the whole recruiting thing and stuff. Here's another thing. They win 9 games of the regular season. They go to a bowl game, and they win. That's 10 wins right there.
10 wins.
That would be like the first time they've had 10 wins in a season since what, like 2013? Like, it's been a while. And look, they're going to lose so much talent on defense in the offseason. But, I mean, look, they're going to be able to replenish. This group, this coaching staff, they got the right pieces in place. You got to, bring out the money to bring Dylan Stewart back, all these other guys. Do what you got to do, and you can have another year like this next year with a guy that under center that is going to have second-year starter, so many pieces coming back. You probably lose Rocket, obviously, and some other guys. Yeah. But, man, I mean, you can do it again next year and make this a regular thing with what the season's been like.
Right. If you have a quarterback in college football, like, you always are going to have a chance, and we have a top quarterback, so our chances are amazing. And even the defense, like, we're losing some top heavy dudes, but the way our style is, like, so many guys are getting reps this year and quality reps and making plays that when I look through the defense on paper, like, we're big. We have a lot of young guys that have played meaningful snaps this year. And for them to watch Kyle Kennard and Demetrius Knight and the guys in the secondary, like our secondary, we got some young guys back there playing very well. It's like, I think we still have, it's like Nick Imewari is like, he's going to probably go in the first round. And I think we have guys that are going to step up, and next year they'll be having the same year as him.
Most definitely. Yeah, for
So
sure.
I'm stoked.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's a good time to be a Gamecock fan right now, watching this team. They are looking a lot of fun right now. And there's 2 more games to go,
2 more
Wofford
games.
and then Clemson. So, JP, I appreciate you hopping on with me, man. But before I let you get out of here, I always do this with all my guests. Just tell the people where they could find your work, where they could follow you on social media, what you do, all that, because obviously you have a pretty cool and interesting job, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate it. You can find me on all social medias at jhovey34, Hovey. And I work for Bussin With The Boys. And so we have a regular podcast, and then we also have a gambling show where we talk NFL and college, and that's called The Locker Room. But it's all found under the same handles. And kind of the brief of what I do for them is I used to kind of do everything, and now the team has gotten bigger, and I make all of our vlogs whenever we go on the road. So Will and Taylor are the 2 hosts, and they are on the South Carolina train. I convinced them to go to Columbia for our spring tour, and they left with some of the highest praises for Coach Beamer. Will loves him. He's like, man, if I'm a kid, obviously, Will is a big Nebraska guy, so Matt Rule, everybody should go play for Matt Rule. But he's like, Dan Lanning and Shane Beamer. He's like, those are the 2 coaches I want to play for. Which is, you get mentioned with Dan Lanning, you're a heck of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can follow. I think we actually have a Gamecock. I can't leak who the guest is, but we have a Gamecock coming on the podcast that was really good at catching footballs, and he'll be on in December. But yeah, follow Bussin With The Boys, jhovey34. And I always have to plug, if you are one of the rare people like me who's a football fan and a tennis fan, I have a tennis podcast I do called The Slice, and we drop those weekly. So that's where you can find me.
Let's go, man. That's so hype. Well, JP, I appreciate you hopping on with me, dude. Thank you so much. And we'll have to do this again sometime. And hopefully we're talking about South Carolina in the playoff a few weeks from now, right? Hey, never say never.
Never say never. Are you going to be at the South Carolina Clemson game?
I will be. So I'm at all the games, man. It's going to be – I've never been to a Carolina Clemson game at Death Valley. So, look, I really hope it's not a night game. I know a lot of fans out there are going to want it to be a night game, but it should be nuts. So
I'll be there, so we'll have to link up.
Oh yeah, for sure, bro. We're definitely going to link up. JP, appreciate you hopping on with me, man. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll do this again soon.
All right, Jack. See you, man. Thank you so much for having me on. It means a lot, for real.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, boss. That was JP from Bussin With The Boys at Barstool Sports. Appreciate him hopping on with me, and appreciate all you guys tuning in. We're just going to close this thing out in a few minutes here. But, I mean, look, what a game. What a game from just start to finish last night. It was a wild one. South Carolina's up 21-6, and you're thinking, like, I even me, man, in the press box, I'm like, oh, man, South Carolina's going to go on a run here. They're going to finish this thing off. Second half, they get the ball back. Oh, they're going to score. They're going to be up 28-6, and it's like, that's a wrap. Like, close this thing out. It's over. It's over. Vince Carter, it's over. But nah, like, Missouri had other ideas, and it was rough to watch last night. Like, truthfully, like, I know I'm not a fan, but I cover this team day in and day out. It's like, man, like, this is how it's going to go. All that for another disastrous type of loss. Like, come on. It's at some point something's got to give, and South Carolina's got to get over the hump. And they did. They did. Even when the offense was lifeless in the second half, they kicked it into another gear in the final minutes and got it rolling. Like, again, I'll say it again. JP and I were talking about it for 40 minutes, man. Lenorris Sellers. If you don't have stock in that kid after what you've seen last night or this entire season, and if you don't believe in him, I would suggest changing your tune, buying stock, go to Wall Street, do whatever you got to do. Go, whatever you got to do. Let's do it. I mean, look, he is special. South Carolina's got a heck of a quarterback in the building. And the crazy part about it is, y'all, he's only a redshirt freshman. Kendall and Smith and I were talking about earlier this week. Sellers is only 19 years old. What were you doing at 19? I mean, like, come on. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, this kid is unbelievable. And I appreciate JP tuning on. Thanks for the support, guys. Really appreciate it. Go mother freaking Gamecocks. Hey, and shout out. Yeah, what's up, man? Appreciate you hopping on, JP. You're the man. Seriously, thanks again to him for taking the time out of his busy morning and talking Gamecocks. I mean, look, this was a lot of fun, y'all. Just getting on here, talking Gamecocks. It's nice after these wins. Today would have been so somber, probably, had South Carolina lost this game. It's like, where did it go? The title of this video probably would have been, where did it go wrong? I mean, you could have gone in so many different directions, but you know what? This team is different. This isn't like the teams from recent years where, or even earlier this season, where South Carolina can't slam the door when it's 17-0 on LSU. They can't hold on to a fourth quarter lead against Alabama. This team, the last few weeks have been unlike anything I've ever really seen with South Carolina football in my short time covering this team day in and day out. I mean, look, the blowouts they've had, and now this, the close win over a ranked team. And look, we can talk playoff all day long and stuff, but reality is, I hate to be Mr. Realist here, but like probably not making the playoff, unfortunately. I think they deserve to be in. But I mean, look, those 3 losses are going to kill them, especially that one to Ole Miss where you lose 27-3. Had that been a completely closer game, I don't know. I think maybe things would be different, but I will say this to give any slither of hope. I do think South Carolina is the best 3-loss team in the country right now, obviously, and I do think when it's all said and done, as painful as it would be for some Gamecock fans, they're probably going to – it wouldn't shock me if they're that 13th seed, if they're that first team out. And, look, they're going to need a lot more help. You're going to need some more teams to lose. You're going to need Colorado to probably lose. You're going to need Indiana to probably lose. Obviously, you need them to get blown out by Ohio State, but you also probably need them to lose to Purdue, which Purdue stinks. So I don't know how much that's going to happen. There's so much other stuff happening that you need to go right. But you can only control what you can control. And this is a good question. Is it totally okay for fans to consider Wofford week a bye week, right? For the fans, yes. Like, sure. Like, we will have bigger issues to talk about if South Carolina does not blow the doors off of Wofford like next week. If that game is even like a 2-score game going into halftime, I'll be shocked. Like, South Carolina shouldn't even be close. Let's just put it that way. And so I would say yes and no. Like, obviously lock into the game, but by halftime, I mean, go drink, whatever you need to do, go have fun, like put on other college football games. Like, this game should be a wrap at halftime next week. That's just straight up. Like, you don't ever want to overlook an opponent. Like, obviously South Carolina is not going to do that. We're going to hear Shane Beamer talking about how great of a team Wofford is, this and that, all that stuff, which I get it, part of his job. But I mean, look, South Carolina, no excuse not to destroy Wofford. It's the same thing with Clemson and Citadel. Like, that should be a 9-2 versus 8-3 matchup in Death Valley in 2 weeks. And I know everyone's going to want to look ahead to Clemson week and stuff, but we're going to be talking about Wofford next week, and we're going to be talking, or this week, I should say, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. But in the moment right now, control what you can control, win these final 2 games, make the committee's job tough. I think should be the goal from here on out. Make it to where they can't leave you out. Make it to where you beat the snot out of Wofford, which doesn't really hold a lot of weight. Then go to Death Valley, pick up a top 15 win, and beat Clemson by like a touchdown. Like, beat them by multiple scores is what I'm trying to get at. Like, 10 points or more makes you feel pretty good. Or just go in there and beat Clemson. I mean, how satisfying would that be for Gamecock fans to cap off this season, regular season that is, with a win over your arch nemesis? I mean, 2 years ago, I wasn't covering the game back then because I was just an intern at GC. But, I mean, I remember watching the game, I'm like, wow, like South Carolina is like legit back and forth, getting the job done. They persevere and prevail. What is this? And I think this year, how sweet would it be for y'all to see this team with the season they've had, the cherry on top, beating Clemson, and then after that, you're more likely than not get a New Year's Bowl, like meaning like New Year's Eve, like Nashville, Florida. If you ask me where I think this team's probably going, I haven't looked at any bowl projections lately or anything for today, but I would say my best bet, and I don't know if JP's still watching because I know he's a Nashville guy, but I mean, Music City Bowl seems possible, but I think at 9-3, you're getting a better bowl game. I think, real talk, you go 9-3, I think you go to the Citrus Bowl. I would love that as a huge Disney person, and I like Universal too. Shout out Universal. You know the team's going to be going to one of those parks probably, so that'd be pretty cool. But nah, like real talk, like Orlando would be really cool. Going to the Citrus Bowl. It's been a while since I think the last time they went was when it was the Capital One Bowl. And let's also keep this in mind. Last night at the game in the press conference for Shane Beamer, Citrus Bowl, or I should say Cheez-It Bowl representatives were there last night. And Shane was talking with them after the game and stuff. So and they seemed really impressed. So it is possible. And then obviously the ReliaQuest Bowl out in Tampa. I know Gamecock fans are all too familiar with that one, but I would say it's probably going to be one of those three, but more likely you're probably staying in Florida is my best guess. But we'll have to see. But and look, I get it. Let me be the voice of reason here for a second before we close this thing out. This is a great comment here from SE Scout Guy. I would love to go 9-3 in the Citrus Bowl, but I can't get over potentially being left out of the playoff due to terrible call. I know. In the LSU game. I know. Look, it's tough. And I get it. Like that LSU game, I think it's going to haunt people for decades, man. Like it's tough to think about how close South Carolina is to actually like you take out like if you reverse how the scores went for the LSU and the Alabama game. I mean, this is no doubt a top 5 team in the country right now. But the fact of the matter is 21st in the country right now, should move up. I mean, look, the only thing you can do from here on out, and great comment here from JP, shout out for him to still listen to this, but if they are 9-3 and they show up to wherever the 12 seed's playing, force their way into the playoff, that is hypothetically the best way to do it. But like for real, man, like win your ball games the rest of the season and just hope chaos happens. If there's anything chaotic about this season, it's that anything and everything is possible. Literally leave nothing off the table because the craziness we saw last night with all these other teams losing is not the end of it, fortunately, for South Carolina. Like so many other teams around the country are going to lose games that they probably shouldn't. Like watch Texas A&M go to Auburn next week and lose that game. You heard it here. Like, think of how much of a game changer that would be. Like, that happens. Like, I know, obviously, you don't want A&M to lose in the grand scheme of things for playoff purposes. But I guess the first game that came to mind, I'm like, we're not done with the craziness. Like, it's going to continue, and you need it to continue. And you just hope that enough happens to where South Carolina gets into the playoff, and we'll see. I mean, look, it seems like a far-fetched conversation, but in reality, I don't know, man. This season feels very much like 2007 in terms of wildness. You never know what can happen. You get up to about that 15 to 18 range, like Touchdown TV says, you have a good chance, I think. Look, don't let anyone tell you that this team can't get into the playoff, because if you're listening to that nonsense, then I don't know what to tell you. But don't listen to it. Like, don't listen to that rat poison, I guess, in some sense. Like, just enjoy the ride, I think is the big thing. Don't worry about the playoff just yet. Just enjoy the ride, control what you can control, beat Clemson, beat Wofford, and you go from there. And we'll see what happens. Best way to support Gamecocks NIL, Garnet Trust, definitely. They're running some sort of deal right now. I think it's a 34.30 where you pay $34 or donate $34.30. So definitely go ahead and do that if you haven't yet. You want all these top athletes to come back, right? I mean, the best way to do it is to donate, and that's how you're gonna keep going against all all the premier programs in the country. They might have more money and stuff, but hey, South Carolina can do it too. I mean, they're an SEC school. I definitely see it. So that is going to do it for this very fun stream on Sunday morning for GC Live Sunday Reset. A lot of fun talking about this game. And again, I appreciate JP from Bussin With The Boys with Barstool Sports for hopping on, joining me this morning. So big shout out to him. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow him, Hovey34 on all social media platforms. You can also go ahead and follow Bussin With The Boys on podcasts, Twitter, whatever the case might be, X. Definitely do it. And if you're not already, though, go ahead and subscribe to GamecockCentral.com. If you haven't subscribed and you're watching this, what are you doing? I would highly suggest it. We are going to have buttloads of content coming out today. I mean, we did yesterday, tomorrow. I mean, look, you want Gamecock coverage all the time. You want to join in on the fun. You want to talk with people on the Insiders Forum who are just as sicko of college football fans and South Carolina fans like you. I highly recommend it. We're always doing a lot of good stuff over there. We're running a good deal right now. You can't go wrong. And I would definitely suggest subscribing to GamecockCentral.com if you haven't already. And while you're at it right here, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and you like what you're hearing. It's been a lot of fun talking with you guys. And go ahead and subscribe to Gamecock Central's YouTube page for sure. Help us out a lot. And yeah, man, this has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate all you guys hopping on. We're going to hopefully be talking about another big win next week over Wofford. And then you know what comes next. So I'll see you guys next Sunday for GC Live Sunday Reset with yours truly. Have a great rest of your weekend, guys. Enjoy NFL Sunday. Go Bills. Let's finally beat the Chiefs. Let's knock off the last undefeated team in the NFL. And I will see y'all Wednesday for GC Live with myself and Kendall. I'll be doing 107.5 of the game all week. And then, of course, like I said, next Sunday, GC Live Sunday Reset, breaking down another hopefully big win over Wofford. I'll see y'all then.